you're watching it happen right now with Israel. The march to war again. They never have every time, there's always a good way. The press always has no problem justifying these wars. And what's saddening to me is the loss of critical thinking by people who stood beside me during the Iraq war era and opposed that war. Now that it's a Democrat in charge, and I totally blame this on Obama. I think this was Obama's biggest success, is that he was able to quietly allow the Democrats to become the hawk party in the name of, fake woke. I hate calling it that, but identity politics. The meme with the 2 bomber jets. One has a Black Lives Matter and a rainbow sticker. That's the Democrats. The one without is the Republicans. Boy, do I have some gems for you tonight as far as clips go. So I happened across this video of Henry Rollins, and it's from his show. He had a show, and this was like back in the 2000s, like 2007, I think, maybe. But anyway, Rollins had a show, and he did political commentary and had guests and stuff. But I want to start this segment is really just about the war machine's media apparatus and how good it is at duping people. And oh my God, have I got some good stuff for you. So first, watch this clip. Let's watch this clip of Rollins from his TV show. And it's not too long. I think you're going to enjoy it because it's a major throwback, and we'll talk about some of the subject matter that he addresses in this clip. So watch this real quick.
It's a new season here on the Henry Rollins Show, and we're so glad to be back with you. It's been a while since we've gotten together, and in that time, a lot has happened, but very little has changed. Republicans did get their asses handed to them, and they can all kiss my ass and say hello to Madam Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
See, this is when Pelosi first got the nod, and so everyone was super excited that it was the first woman speaker and everything. So this aired in, let me check my notes here, April 13th of 2007. Let's continue.
Evangelical heavyweight and New Life Church founder Ted Haggard resigns his post after admitting to buying crystal methamphetamine and congressing with a male prostitute.
So what he gets into here is such a great trip down memory lane, because all the conservatives right now that are freaking out about Epstein and Hollywood pedophiles, just listen.
Haggard chalks it up to sexual immorality and is currently being rehabilitated. Republican from Florida, Mark Foley's taste for teenage boys is exposed as his sexually explicit emails to congressional pages comes to light. White House
Do you remember that? Mark Foley, the Republican senator who was like trying to get with congressional pages or was banging them. I don't remember.
Press Secretary Tony Snow characterizes the emails as merely overly friendly and nothing to be worried about, as we are all left to store that information in the pedophile. Hey, Bush, enjoying Nixonian approval ratings, delivered his flatline no news.
So this was when Bush was still president. This is right before Obama got elected.
State of the Union address that he could have delivered last year, which brings me to my point. It's been another year and not a lot has changed. The invasion of Iraq continues to drain America of resources while it enriches the coffers of KBR and other crony corporations, kills and hideously mangles brave soldiers and innocent civilians unceasingly, and creates more enemies worldwide daily. The Bush administration didn't care much for what the Iraq Study Group had to say and sent more troops surging into Baghdad. Katrina survivors are still displaced, and no one in government seems all that concerned. The always eager Disney girl, Britney Spears, took time away from her hectic schedule of endangering her children and getting rid of her intellectually malnourished husband to expose her pudenda to the motor drives of half-interested paparazzi cameras, giving us all way too much personal information.
He needs to fire one of his writers for pudenda.
Saddam Hussein, hanged by amateurs. His half-brother Barzan Ibrahim, also hanged, loses his head to poor execution technique as mankind hits a new low. Will anything ever change for the better? I don't have an answer for that, but what I do know is that unless we push with the utmost urgency for progress, there will only be more of the same. And that is not only unacceptable, it is also unsustainable. We are going to have a great season here on IFC, and I hope you join me, our musical and sit-down guests, as we go uncut, uncensored, and stick it to these motherfuckers nonstop.
Now, remember everything he just said. So I went down the wormhole looking for, footage of Henry Rollins supporting the Ukraine war. And what I found, the most prominent video clip of him, was a Joe Rogan episode. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The Joe Rogan episode that Henry Rollins did was followed by an appearance by Jimmy Dore. And so I started watching this Henry Rollins clip, and the YouTube algorithm recommended me this Jimmy Dore clip of Jimmy Dore talking to Joe Rogan about Henry Rollins. And this is far better than the Henry Rollins clip, because let me sum up the Henry Rollins clip for you. He basically tells this story about his dad smacking him because he asked his dad if he was a communist because his dad was an economist. And that's just like the visceral reaction to being asked if he was a communist that his dad had, was just to smack him upside the head as a kid. So that really shocked him. And then he goes on to say that Trump was being used by Putin, and he actually isn't as unhinged as a lot of the liberals are with the Trump thing. He's measured about it, I think, which is cool. But all the stuff he says is ridiculous, because if you just heard what he said, 10 years ago, when before Obama got elected, when Bush was president, he was calling out profiteering by KBR and Dick Cheney. And now he's supporting the same type of profiteering by actually the same people, largely, in the Ukraine war, because a Democrat sold it to him. And this is the whole thread that I'm trying to draw here with the fake news thing, is how good our news media has been at tricking people. As smart Henry Rollins is a smart guy. I read a lot of his books as a kid. Obviously a big Black Flag fan, obviously a big fan of Rollins band. So it's disappointing to see guys like him and Jello Biafra and Al Jorgensen, heroes of mine who were politically active rockers, be duped by this stuff. So anyway, let's watch this Jimmy Dore clip, because this is absolutely fucking incredible. Trip down memory lane, and let's just watch it. Listen to this.
We're getting emotional in the green room listening to Henry Rollins talk about Putin. You're about to quote Chomsky.
Yes. So
what was that?
I just caught the end of it. I went in the green room, and everybody loves Henry Rollins, right? And
except Henry. That's why he's so good.
maybe
he's constantly grinding.
Yeah, but he was doing that thing about Putin. There was a journalist who wrote a book about him, ended up dead. Putin's a bad guy. He's a bad guy, as opposed to who?
Well, no, but you mean he's definitely a bad guy, right?
So one of the things I also just thought about is Henry Rollins precedes this hate for Putin with the story about communism, not recognizing the fact that Putin is not communist. Russia is not a communist country and hasn't been since the fall of the USSR.
We all agree that.
Yeah,
of course. But I mean, just because other people are also bad guys, it doesn't negate his point of Putin being a bad guy. What he was saying is just that it's very bizarre that the Republicans, these people that were, at the forefront of the Cold War, these ones who are, these are the people that remember Khrushchev banging on the desk, saying, we'll bury you with Kennedy. And these people are now, they're whitewashing Putin. They're essentially trying to paint out Putin to be a good guy, because Trump is in this position where he's trying to be friends with this guy.
So again, this is where things get dicey, because people act like conservatives are praising Putin and praising Russia when I mean, some of them are, let's be honest, but the real sentiment here isn't that Putin is a great guy, just that why can't we be friends with Russia? What have they done that's so much worse than the United States that makes them a demon in the world as compared to someone like I'll let Jimmy handle this. Just listen.
So Well, here's the quote I wanted to
Okay.
send you, right?
Please.
So that whole thing, if Nuremberg laws were applied, then every post-war American president would have been hanged, says Noam Chomsky. Putin kills journalists. We just torture ours. So, I mean, Chelsea Manning is a whistleblower. Barack
Yeah.
Obama tortured her. So
yeah.
we have our president. We have presidents and vice presidents who are legit war criminals that walk around today. They had a torture program. Okay, so Barack Obama got a peace prize, and then he had a kill list. A peace prize winner with a kill list, a drone kill list. Would you keep the kill list next to the peace prize? Where do you keep those two things? Are they anyway? So this
Not only that, some of the people that were killed were American citizens with no due process.
With no due process. And so nobody has a problem with Trump being buddies with Benjamin Netanyahu, who is a psychopathic maniac who shoots with precision medics who are.
So this is why this is so good, because this clip is from August of 2018. This is from like 5 years ago. And this is why Jimmy is so beloved, because he has integrity. He's consistent about this stuff.
Trying to help people and nurses and journalists,
Well, he
by the
doesn't,
way.
but some Israeli troops have done that.
Israeli troops do that.
That's a really depressing thing. I had Abby Martin on, and she sort of illuminated that whole situation. I mean, I really didn't know how bad it was, nor did she until she went over there.
Right.
And just experiencing what it's like. It's crazy that people that went through the Holocaust, that realize the cost of dehumanizing an entire race of people, now are capable, at least some of them are capable of doing that to the Palestinians.
Yeah, it's kind of mind blowing. So to hear, and I have friends who do that. Everyone's doing this, right? Everyone's getting caught up in this hysteria. That's why there's a word called hysteria, because it happens, and we're in one. And what I like is what Noam Chomsky said about this Russia hysteria that's happening. He said,
The thing to remember here too is this all predates the Ukraine war. The Trump-Russia hysteria was a complete psyop ginned up to garner support for the Ukraine war, which is now crumbling because of Israel.
if you care about effects on our pristine elections, which he said very sarcastically.
That was kind of sometimes I misspeak when I do these things. I watch them back later and I go, oh, wow, that's not what I meant to say. The Ukraine war is not crumbling because of Israel, but the attention of the mass media has shifted because of that.
He said, if you care about what's affecting our pristine elections, the Russia gate is the last place I would look. And the first place he would look, if you worried about foreign control of or influence on our government, he said he would look to Israel. They're the ones. Benjamin Netanyahu came here and addressed the joint session of Congress without the permission or invitation of the president. Remember when Obama was president, he did that? He did that. That's a guy coming here to tell our guys how to vote in direct defiance of our president, and everyone embraced him. Can you imagine if Putin did that? Putin came to America and addressed our joint session of Congress against the will of the president. So this idea that somehow because Putin is a bad guy, Trump shouldn't have a good friendship with him is BS. The guys who are really influencing our government here are Benjamin Netanyahu, Saudi Arabia. Trump opened 8 businesses in Saudi Arabia during the election, and no one gives a crap about any of that stuff because they're our friends. Saudi Arabia, by the way, just bombed a school today. School bus, 29 kids dead. So,
Why did they
I
do
just
that?
retweeted that from Sarah Abdullah. So why would they do that? Because they're in Yemen. They're bombing. We're committing genocide in Yemen right now. So we're helping Saudi Arabia commit a genocide in Yemen. And the way we're doing it is they're doing a thing called siege warfare, which is a
That made Israel jealous. Sorry, I didn't mean that. That was for entertainment purposes only.
war crime. And in fact, they just prosecuted someone a few months ago at The Hague for it. So, since we're doing it and we're the enforcers, and Saudi Arabia is on the Human Rights Council, so it's just everything's a joke now, right? So we're past it, where it's a farce. We're living in this farce. And so when I see a guy that I love, like Henry Rollins, saying stuff like, "Oh, Putin's the special kind of bad," I just quote back Chomsky. We have nothing. We have legit war criminals, just one presidency away.
Do you think he's a step removed from that, though? I mean, he'll assassinate journalists in his own
Rogan always plays devil's advocate.
country
Right
to
now-
criticize him.
Right now, we're trying to assassinate Julian Assange. Right now, our
Do you think
government...
we're trying to assassinate him? Is that what they're trying to do?
Yes, they're trying to kill that guy. Yes, they want that guy dead. Hillary Clinton was like, can't we drone that guy? Can't we kill him?
Yeah, she really did say that.
Yeah, she really did say that after she just got done killing Gaddafi and then laughed about it.
Yeah, that's we've played that several times.
Yeah.
We came, we saw, he died. The fact that any human being would ever do that, and by the way he died.
So remember what Rollins just said about the new low for humanity earlier? He obviously didn't hear about this.
That's some dark shit. They watched and they stabbed him in the asshole.
Right.
And there's a video of them stabbing him in the asshole while he's standing there, just confused, not knowing what to do. And this guy's jamming a sword up his ass.
Have you seen the video?
Yes.
Oh, I have not seen that.
Oh my God, it's awful. You want to see it?
No.
The video of them capturing him is fascinating because it's a guy who has lived with an iron fist, controlled these people, been a brutal dictator, been a horrible monster of a human being. Now all of a sudden these rebels have captured him, and they can't believe they have him, and they're shooting him and stabbing him, and then eventually they have his body and they parade his body around after they've killed him. But there's video of him. You should look at it for a moment because it's so stunning to see him captured and alive, and can't believe that these rebels have him. That it's not even like, I have seen video of him captured and that look on his face, so I know what you're talking about. Just the guys.
Anyway, you get the idea. So anyway, the way that the media sells this stuff, they've been doing it for years, and it's so depressing that a guy like Henry Rollins doesn't remember some of this stuff. So I'm just going to show you this real quick throwback to the New York Times selling the Iraq War. Watch this.
Now know that Saddam has resumed his efforts to acquire nuclear weapons.
So when Cheney said that, I got on the phone to people, and one person said to me, somebody who watched proliferation as their job, so the vice president is lying.
On the basis of his intelligence sources, Landay wrote there was little evidence to back up the vice president's claims. But the story Landay wrote didn't run in New York or Washington. Knight Ridder, remember, has no outlet in either city. So it couldn't compete with a blockbuster that appeared 2 days later on the front page of the nation's paper of record with the familiar byline. Quoting anonymous administration officials, the Times reported that Saddam Hussein had launched a worldwide hunt for materials to make an atomic bomb using specially designed aluminum tubes. And there, on Meet the Press that same morning, was Vice President Cheney.
Tubes, there's a story in the New York Times this morning. This is, and I want to attribute to the Times, I don't want to talk about, obviously, specific intelligence sources, but...
Now, ordinarily, information like the aluminum tubes wouldn't appear in it. It was top secret intelligence, and the vice president and the national security advisor would not be allowed to talk about this on the Sunday talk shows. But it appeared that morning in the New York Times, and therefore they were able to talk about it.
It's not classified
public that, in fact, he has been seeking to acquire, and we have been able to intercept and prevent him from acquiring through this particular channel, the kinds of tubes that are necessary to build a centrifuge. And the centrifuge is required to take low-grade uranium and enhance it into highly enriched uranium, which is what you have to have in order to build a bomb.
Did you see that performance?
I did.
What did you think?
I thought it's remarkable.
Why?
Remarkable. You leak a story and then you quote the story? I mean, that's a remarkable thing to do.
They don't even have to do that anymore. The press just says whatever they tell them. So I got one more little snippet for you here. And this is one, the quality of the clip isn't great, but this is another one that I'm sure that Henry Rollins hasn't seen. And it sums up the Ukraine thing well.
The whole U.S. government feels that way. There is division on this, but the neoconservative element wants very much to change the strategic dynamic in Eastern Europe. The neocons are very smart people, and they've been at this for a long time. They came in around the issue of propaganda. They studied how to create hot buttons for the American people. They had this experience when they were getting the American people to get excited about Central America back in the 1980s.
It's underneath the regular army. The ground force is being equipped now with Russian artillery.
And they've been applying those same strategies ever since. They remain very dedicated to achieving their goals. They still want to get rid of certain governments. They wanted regime change in Syria, for instance, regime change in Iran. They're very skilled at this, and they have a lot of allies now inside the news media, inside the government, and that means that they can do a lot to control the narrative of any story.
I think in America these days, we have somehow told ourselves that there are a lot of ways of dealing with these problems other than hard power. Vladimir Putin cares about hard power.
The neoconservatives can now demonize a leader of a country. That sells with the American people. So you don't just sort of argue a policy, you attack the leader. So the neoconservatives became very skilled at picking out leaders, finding their ugly traits, and then highlighting them. Yanukovych, you might say, was a rather clunky political leader, but you make him into a devil. He's totally corrupt, and he's evil, and he wants to kill people in the Maidan, these wonderful white-hatted demonstrators. So you've got a black hat versus white hat. And then you keep repeating that basic scenario. And it works with the American people.
You've got to realize what Vladimir Putin is. He's an old KGB colonel that wants to restore the Russian Empire.
You make them into demons, and the American people find that the way they can understand the world. Once that happens, it's very difficult for journalists or anyone else to say, no, hold it, that guy, he's kind of more of a gray hat than a white hat or a black hat. And if you say that, you suddenly you're a Yanukovych apologist or you're a Putin apologist, and then the attacks come on to the person saying it, the journalist, the academic, or whoever.
And guys like Henry Rollins, because of the Obama years, do not recognize what's going on here. And I'm going to end this segment by showing you just one last little lovely snippet. And it's from Bill Maher.
The eternal folly that wars are won quickly, which we learned twice that wasn't true recently. And I think that the Russian engagement in Ukraine is going to last for many, 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 many years to come, weakening that state considerably. And it's terrifying. I don't know.
Okay. A school principal at a Florida...
Many, 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 many years. So that's our segment on how terrible the media is and how they have a long track record of supporting every war until it's too late. And you see it happening. You see the cycle rebooting here with the whole Middle East thing. We just had it happen last year with Ukraine, and people are like is it the dog from that movie Up? Squirrel? I think it's Up. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. The dog with the short attention span that sees a squirrel and turns its head every time. That's the United States right now, and has been for a long time.